there's no money to lend, and that defeats the whole purpose of the whole thing.
And the bank's planning to give back their share of the money?
Yeah, I mean, we're still hearing big banks now. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they want out of this. Wells Fargo's been complaining they were forced to take the money.
Well, they were.
And they were. They need to pass the stress test so they can give it back. So we're going to see more of this.
Stick around a second. I want to talk about whether any of this is actually legal. This is the part I was mentioning throughout the show. Fox News Senior Judicial Analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano was here. You had a very interesting meeting. When was this, last night?
This was last night in Washington.
Now, I want to set this up. Remember now, all of the banks did not want this money. Some of the banks tried to reject the money. And you were with a leader of a bank who did just that.
Correct. This person runs a bank that's worth about $250 billion. It has no subprime loans. It has no bad debts. It wasn't involved in any of the credit default swaps. It didn't need any money. It didn't ask for the money, and it didn't want it. The FDIC, with Treasury backing,
Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which protects our deposits.
Officials from both the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation and the Treasury said, if you don't take this money, we will conduct a multi-year public audit of you.
Now, the head of this bank was like, we're fine with that, our books are fine, but it was going to cost them.
Correct. It would cost them millions in employee time to give the government the documents it wanted. It would cost it terrible publicity. The terrible publicity would mean a loss of business. He begged the federal government to let him continue to run his successful bank successfully.
His private business.
Correct. He begged his board of directors to let him tell the feds to go take a hike. The board caved. The board was forced to issue a class of stock just for the federal government. The federal government owns 2% of this huge bank. As a result of that minority ownership, they now want to control salaries, they want to see his books, and they want to tell him who he can do business with.
And you say, on behalf of the Bush administration, this was
extortion. This occurred in September of 2008. Extortion is an attempt to control somebody else's free will by threatening to perform a lawful act. Is an audit lawful? Absolutely. Is the threat to engage in an audit in order to force them to sell stock to the federal government lawful? Of course not. It's a crime. That happened in September of 2008 under the Bush administration. In March of 2009 is when the Treasury said, we own 2%, we want to tell you how to run the place.
So what can happen now? Nothing.
Maybe the courts will say, this is going too far. The Congress doesn't have the authority to authorize the FDIC and the Treasury to do this.
Tracy, you talk to these people all the time. What do they say?
Well,